this is downtown Helsinki, and you basically don't even know your neighbors. But when you sit there on the upper bench, you get to know your neighbors pretty fast.
With the wood burning heater, you're sucking air to feed that fire. So you can't have a sealed box.
Underneath the door in Helsinki was maybe like 8 inches.
Wow.
It was big. It was big.
Guess who's coming to sauna? Hekilunta. Guess who's coming to sauna? Hekilunta.
Well, welcome back to another episode of the Upper Bench. It's good to see you guys again. How's it been going? Eero, you're back from Finland.
Yeah, I was there for 6 weeks, and I actually attended the World Sauna Forum. I was there, and then I spent 2 weeks in the archipelago, and I've been doing so much sauna. It's been a daily treat for me. But I'm back, and I'm glad both ways. I love to be back there, and I love to be in. And by the way, one day we're going to talk about. We have an apartment in Helsinki, and the residential building has a couple of saunas that the people residents can book times in, and we're going to talk about those eventually.
Well, and
Yeah,
maybe we talk about that towards the end of this episode.
Sure.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So Sam, what's going on with you?
You know what? We're finally getting some rain down here in the southeast. It's much needed, and I always love when it's raining outside because you can step outside of your sauna and get that little natural cool down. Feel the rain on you. I love that. That's one of my favorites. Other than getting snowed on or jumping in the snow, but we're not getting a heck of a lot of snow anymore since moving down here to South Carolina. So I'll take the rain when it's appropriate. So love jumping out of the sauna into the rain, but just instead of a cold plunge or instead of a hose or shower or whatever, it is kind of cool to just be au naturel sometimes.
Sure.
But I mean, that does bring up a great, what we wanted to talk about today, is that kind of that refreshing washing, getting cleaned up in your sauna. We had a great conversation in a previous episode where we talked about some hunting cabin saunas and some, off-grid, saunas where people are using them for their source of getting clean, with a floor drain and putting a bucket of water over your head and washing up with soap and everything. So, and a lot of people think that's a little weird. Risto, where have you seen that in practice?
Well, especially in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where showers in the hot room are a common feature. And then in old school saunas, where you'll see just like a bevy of buckets on the benches and maybe a little caddy of soap and shampoo. And in fact, sauna before, when it was first becoming known outside of Finland, it wasn't always called sauna. It was pretty common to call it the Finnish steam bath. So that
Yes.
concept of bathing was there from the very beginning. It wasn't until later on that the we kind of lost the bathing aspect of sauna.
Isn't it kind of interesting because that's exactly what has happened because when we talk about this thermal therapy, the therapy part does not include the hygiene part kind of. And like you said, Risto, it's that was the whole thing when those there were no showers, no swimming pools or whatever. So it's just like that was the way people kept clean. And back in the day, it was basically it was a once a week practice, so there was a lot of very clean people on Saturday afternoons, but this was a while back. But anyway, so the connection between the hygiene, the washing yourself in sauna, that's we sort of have lost that connection. And but if you want to go authentic, if you want to, and if you're going to get that fantastic feeling, the part of it is to be clean, and hence it's very important.
Yeah, and it's a superior way of getting clean to kind of the standard Western or American ways, where if you pop in a bathtub, you're just kind of bathing in your own filth. And even in a shower, it's really just getting the stuff on the outside of your skin. You don't feel nearly as clean as you do after taking a sauna. Even if you don't wash up in a sauna, at least if you rinse a little bit, that still does a lot. But you can go the full way and, you know, get a bar of soap, get some shampoo, even some people have a mirror and a razor. You can really get the full cleaning experience with the sauna.
Oh yeah, and for those of you who are saying that's crazy talk, go spend a week at a cabin without running water, you know, and you might not be into that, but then you're probably listening to the wrong podcast already. But if you go spend some time out there roughing it and you are hot, sweaty, stinky, smelly, dirty, right? And you go take a sauna and that is your only way of cleaning up, when you come out of there, I guarantee you, you are going to feel amazing. You are going to be cleaner than you thought was possible without running water. So again, you know, don't knock it till you tried it. But when you know when that heat is opening up your pores and you're just getting everything off of you, and you're just it's a whole body cleanse. You know, mind, body, and soul. And really, don't be afraid to throw that water around, you know, and we like to promote that because, you know, if you've got a floor drain or if you've got a sauna that's outdoors and you can throw a lot of water around, there's no reason why you shouldn't be washing up out there too, you know, at you know, your final round. Instead of running inside and jumping in the shower and wasting that water, you probably got some water already sitting next to you in the sauna. So, you know, get cleaned up in there. It's a great. I highly recommend it to anybody who hasn't.
I spend quite a lot of time thinking about how, we should approach these cleaning stuff, washing yourself in sauna. And it's because the problem that we have had ever since we started, and what has been the problem that we've had in North America ever since sauna started here, basically, is that it's sort of like being taken out of its own context. And such a multi-sensory experience. Again, coming back to the discussions that we've had before, people who are looking for that perfect sweat and that perfect sweat only are not wrong at all, but it's kind of a different thing. We're talking about soap bars, and we are talking about these special LED lights. We are talking about whatever, looking at the sea, like in my case, staring at the sea while taking breaks, from the hot room and all that stuff. So it takes so many more episodes to try to make people understand what we actually are trying to achieve here. But we're working on it.
Yeah, and the community aspect that you talked about. As I prepare for, I'm giving a speech at FinFest this year. You know, one of the pictures I have in my head is some people sitting around after sauna with some cardamom bread and cups of coffee. That's as much part of sauna as being in the hot room, that community aspect. So, like you're saying, it's multifaceted, multisensory. And if you haven't bathed in your sauna, I say try it, give it a shot, or give it a shot a few times and see what you think. Some people really fall in love with that aspect of sauna.
And even if you can't, like I said, and this applies to myself too. I don't have a floor drain in my sauna. You know, I built my sauna in a pre-existing concrete structure, so I wasn't gonna do a false floor or get the jackhammer out and put in a drain. So, but I sure like, you know, throwing around the water outside. I've got a hose right outside there. And I can step into nature and hose myself off. So that's about as close as I can get to the authentic experience. But guess what? I've got a little soap caddy out there right next to the hose reel. And because there's nothing better than getting done mowing, hosing yourself off, having a good sweat, soaping down, going inside, and actually being clean and not dragging in a bunch of gunk and stuff into my house. And I'm clean when I go inside, and it's a great feeling, and it's a clean that is unparalleled. I cannot find a better feeling of clean than when I sauna.
You're just bragging because I don't even have a sauna.
Well, we gotta work on that, Eero. That has to be a project of ours.
Yeah.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
and so that's a great question, Eero. Do you use soaps and cleaners and stuff like that when you're using your steam shower?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I am doing that too, but doesn't have that fantastic feeling as what sauna brings you. It's more like a shower than a steam shower.
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm saying. It's just
Yeah.
like I'm taking a shower, but I'm taking the steam with it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a difference. But yeah, man, yeah, it's just like, so in my Friday or Saturday, and that feeling of clean. Steam shower does not bring that to you. Not to me. For some people it does.
Yeah. So yeah, and if you got it, use it. We can't knock it if you're into thermal therapy, no matter what it is. Again, we talk about traditional Finnish sauna bathing here on the upper bench. But again, we're not opposed to you guys getting thermal therapy in whichever way, shape, form you feel is beneficial for yourself.
Maybe we should go into that process just a little bit. Eero, you can jump in here. You've done this way more than I have. You would know better, but usually there's some water that's kind of heated up, so it's not just totally cold water that you're washing with, right?
Correct. Yeah. I think we've touched this topic before, but the whole sauna process starts, even, depending on where you are, what you have, you first take a shower, or you just throw a bucket of water on, and to get wet. So it's like, then the wetting process starts like easier, and it even feels better. But anyway, so basically what I do is I start after taking a shower, and I don't do anything, like I don't wash myself during the first 2 or 3 rounds, but comes final round, then you need that heated water, and you mix that with heated water, and a lot of about obviously a lot of wood burning heaters have that extra water tank, so either you get it from the heated water from there or some other source of hot water. And even like back in the day in the Finnish countryside, the only thing you basically, if I was by myself at the country home, I just took a big bucket of water and put it next to me on the upper bench. And when you sauna about an hour, it's gonna heat up. It's not gonna be hot, but it's gonna be warm enough for you to wash yourself. So no need to have any special means of hot water. But anyway, so come final round, you wash yourself thoroughly, and either like they do it in the upper peninsula, it happens inside the hot room, or it happens just outside the hot. Depends, and it doesn't make any difference as long as there's a drain somewhere that takes care of the water. Then you take the final round, and then you rinse yourself and you relax. And like you guys said, you're gonna feel like $1,000,000 because of the thorough inside outside.
So, are you
Yeah.
washing before like the second to last round?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And then would you
Yeah.
use soap and shampoo?
Yes, and then also what I did back in the day, it was actually recommended. I left the what do you see that you shampoo your head, and then you have that stuff you put afterwards.
Oh,
Was
conditioner.
Yeah, you leave that in your hair while you take the final round, and trust me, you're gonna feel it. It feels fantastic when that conditioner gets into your basically every single piece of hair. So that's kind of an inside thing, and you should try it out if you haven't done that yet.
I'm more of a fan of the big, jug at 3-in-1. It's got soap, shampoo, conditioner, the whole nine. But as far as, products go, I think we've stumbled upon something that I think is pretty cool. Risto, you turned me on to this. Eero, you're getting on board with this, but Kreamy soaps. So Risto, what makes this soap different, and why should we be using it in the sauna?
Well, it's a pine tar soap, and pine tar, if you haven't used it before, it's very traditional. It's been used a long time. This is what it looks like, and this Kreamy soap brand is an olive oil pine tar soap. It has like a pretty smoky kind of medicinal smell to it. It's fairly strong, so it takes a bit of getting used to, but it cleans super well. Our family tried a bunch of different kinds of pine tar soap, and we settled on this brand being our favorite.
Yeah, I got mine in the mail the other day, and I could literally smell the pine tar. I got the double. I got the double pine tar, and I got this the other day, and I could smell it through the box that it came in. I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be great." And just, simple packaging. I love that too. But I mean, it's a good soap. I mean, I love the fact that we can have a solid bar of soap to go into a sauna that is handcrafted. Something that is just like my sauna. I built my sauna. Handcrafted. I just take a lot of pride in that. So using a product that, it is handcrafted itself, I'm a big fan of that.
We've given bars to people when we go use their sauna. So we went to the UP, and Jim Kurti up there, if you're in the Finnish American community, you know Jim. He invited us to use their sauna, and washing is part of what they do in that last or second to last round. And but as we were sauning, I was talking about pine tar because I had questions about how you use it in the sauna. Traditionally, I've heard of it being used in the water, whereas with the soap. And he said that he didn't really care for pine tar. And I said, well, I have to apologize ahead of time. I brought you a bar of pine tar soap to use, and but you can just give it away to someone else. That's fine if you don't care for that. So I left it with him, and then we came back, and our family sauned in his sauna again this past year. And I was looking in his changing room, and he had a giant stack of this creamy pine tar soaps. And I was like, what's going on? I thought you didn't like pine tar. And he said, like, it grew on him, and now he likes it, and he gives it away to people that come and use his sauna.
Yeah, what a great gift and a great takeaway. I mean, and something that I think is, just such a throwback to traditional sauna. This, when I hold this sucker in my hands, I mean, this is old school. I want to throw one of these in my backpack when I go up to, my next hunting trip. I'm bringing this up to that sauna for sure. And I mean, it smells like a campfire. It smells just the way I really expect a good pine tar to smell. And I love it. So looking forward to trying out the different scents and stuff from them, but really good stuff over there at Kreamy Soaps.
So check them out, creamysoaps.com, and use our code Upper Bench. Let them know that we sent you guys there, and I hope you enjoy their products.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and if you don't have a sauna that can support, like we said, you're probably going to need a floor drain, or you're going to need an area somewhere that you can throw a lot of water around. And if you've got a kit, or if you've got something in your basement that doesn't necessarily allow for a heck of a lot of water to be going around, that still doesn't mean that you can't get clean an old fashioned way. You're still taking a shower probably afterwards. And this just kind of definitely elongates that traditional, authentic experience right into your bathroom. So even if you can't use this inside your sauna, we recommend it even for just your regular daily use.
Yep. And actually, in Finland, I think the practice of bathing in the hot room mostly moved to like a shower next door. Is that right, Eero?
That is
Probably,
true.
would you say
Yeah.
in the 70s or 80s? When did that happen?
Yeah, around there, yes. The sauna that I grew up with, we cleansed ourselves inside the hot room. So there was no washing room specifically. So you got clean. You soaked yourself inside the hot room. You did everything inside the hot room. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But now, for some reason, people want to separate the two spaces. So maybe one of the reasons why people don't wash themselves inside the hot room anymore is because of the size of the sauna, because the sauna has to be big if you want to do everything inside the hot room. So it's like, you don't even consume that much energy if the sauna is smaller and the washing room is separate.
And I think that makes sense. I mean, throwing a lot of water around and having, a lot of wood, some people just, it does seem a little counterintuitive. So they may want to shy away from combining the two. But Eero, what about that sauna that you said you just got done using in Helsinki, in your apartment building? How was that set up?
Good question. So yeah, so the first when you go inside, it's by the way, there are two saunas on the penthouse. And this, the magic stuff is that they both have access to outdoors. So obviously that's crucial that you can go outside between the rounds. But first you come in, you open the door, you have the dressing room. And dressing room obviously has a bathroom if need be. And then you go inside, you go to the space where the shower, there are a couple of showers there. And then next to those couple of showers, you have the actual sauna.
How big is the changing room and the shower room?
This is the smaller one of the two. I would say like 4 feet times maybe like 8 feet is the dressing room, and then the shower room is maybe about the same size as the sauna. It's got two showers, And I think that that sauna easily accommodates like 3 people, 4 people, maybe. So I don't know how many feet that would be per se, but it's a sizable sauna, but not that big. I don't know, 6 by 6 or something like that. Is was the hot room and the shower room a little more, and then the patio is was pretty big. So there's a lot of space on the patio. But anyways, it's at all the great elements. So you have the showers right next to the hot room, and then the dressing room was not that, you know, I don't know. It was like basic. There are no pictures on the wall, no nothing like that. But obviously, because this is Finland, you spend as much time outdoors as you can, and even no matter, it's covered. So even though it's snowing, raining, or whatever, you can stay outside and enjoy the scenery. I used to use the other sauna while I was living in Finland. I've been away for 26 years, but they just renovated this one, and uh, and it was a good experience.
Well,
Not as hot as I wanted it to be, but it was kind of okay.
so there's two saunas. How does that work for using the saunas? Do you
So
sign up for a time or?
yeah, yes, you sign up for a time. You can have like same time slot or like every week. Like I was using our neighbor's time slot on Saturday evening, but we have a what we call an exercise sauna on Sundays. So it's a given, obviously in this case it's one sauna is for women only, one sauna is for men only. And me being so lazy, I won't go exercising first. I just go to the sauna, and but it's a beautiful thing, and that's the thing about sauna, because this is downtown Helsinki, and you basically don't even know your neighbors. But when you sit there on the upper bench, you get to know your neighbors pretty fast. The ones who use saunas. So it's a great space for talk to your neighbors and talk what's going on in the building and whatnot. So, but anyway, so it basically works. And I used to, before moving to the US, I used to have my time slot on Friday evenings, which was a great thing as well.
So yeah, you were a popular guy on Friday night. Where I mean, did you have a lot of buddies that were like, "Hey, Eero, you need a fourth?"
That actually, yeah, and some listeners might even recall, but we spoke about this about a year ago. I was dating to be married at that point when we moved to this building, apartment building. But back in the day, I was living even further downtown in Helsinki, and I had also a time slot on Fridays, and there was a line of guys waiting to get into Sunbed with me, and I didn't have absolutely anything against that. It was a great way to get, this, and that shows how when a person gets older, because this apartment building, you go to sauna Friday night to get ready for bed. But back in the day, it was a Friday night, and you got ready to hit the whatever bars and restaurants stuff what was going on. So that's how life changes. But there's a sauna there, so that's the good thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I love that, just that structure of it. If you know that you're going to have access to a great sauna at Friday at 8 o'clock every week, you can kind of plan your week around that, have people know about it. Maybe they don't come every week, but what a great way to just kind of create a great ritual habit. I might try to do that with maybe some of my new friends down here, saying, "Hey, you know what? Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock, whatever that time slot looks like, the sauna will be ready. So come on over. This time slot is pretty much going to be wide open. If you see smoke coming out of the smokestack, I'm in there." So I might try to do that. I like that it really becomes a part of your everyday life. I know a lot of our listeners, they want to introduce something that is positive to their ritual, their routine, their everyday life, and what a better way. We've talked about it 100 times, but we do think that adding sauna to your everyday life is something that's going to be beneficial to you in the long run, not only physically but spiritually, mentally, socially. Yeah, especially if you're doing it with the people that you like. So, and then going to do more fun stuff after that. So, yeah, it all boils down to making those honest connections in the sauna, getting clean, getting ready, prepped, and ready to go. Sauna doesn't have to be your whole day, but man, it should be a great part of part of your day.
Obviously, the ventilation is now an extremely sensitive topic. And people are misunderstanding us when we're talking about the ventilation, because obviously we all share the same view that it's of utmost importance that you have oxygen and you don't have too much CO2 inside the sauna. But how you get there is kind of the issue. And it was I mentioned to you guys separately, but it was such a revelation to me to go back to this briefly, you know, renovated sauna, you know, at my apartment building in Helsinki, because that was basically just finished, and it did not have the vent on the far corner of the room, but it was still it's gonna we're coming back to the thing that it's kind of, and obviously I could be wrong, but it's very easy for me to say how I like my sauna. What it boils down to is I've experienced this my whole life, so I don't know anything else than this. But what I'm trying to say is I don't have to see the vent in the far corner close to the ceiling. But what I can do is what I can do in the sauna that I was using there in Helsinki, Finland, is there's a window. So it's part of the process to tweak that sauna experience. And if I feel like there's not enough air inside the sauna, what I do is I open the window and bam, problem solved.
Oh, 100%. And being able to adjust that on the fly and knowing what you like takes experience, but being able to control it to your own personal preference is key there. And this is something too that we're going to definitely keep talking about because there's a very big difference between the ventilation and construction concerns of an electric versus wood burning stove. With a wood burning heater, you're sucking air to feed that fire. So you can't have a sealed box or that fire is going to snuff out. So you have to be able to draw fresh air for combustion, period. And so with an electric heater, there is no forced air other than just the natural convection and pressure changes that heat creates. So you have to be a little bit more thermodynamic, if you will, and engineer the proper air intake and outlet, for convection to, help with that, whatever you're after. And I feel like with a wood heater, as long as you got a hole in the wall, you're going to be moving air, you're going to be pushing and circulating, you're going to be moving air. So it really doesn't matter. So that to me is where if you've got a wood stove and you've got a gap underneath the door, of your sauna, you're probably fine, honestly. And it doesn't have to get much more complicated than that.
Talking about gaps, I was laughing while in Helsinki because I think, like some people advise here in the US, that the gap underneath the door should be like an inch and a half or something. I can't remember. I've heard that pretty often, that we're talking about,
Mhm.
1 inch to 2 inches. I always exaggerate, but the gap underneath the door in Helsinki was maybe like 8 inches. It was big. It was big, but it's like it's that doesn't get any heat away because that's not where the heat is. So the only thing it can do is, in good circumstance, it's going to bring the air in. So it's going to bring a lot of air in favorable circumstances. But anyway, particularly when the window is open.
That would be interesting to see like a door that had like a 2 foot gap at the bottom, I mean, it does create like if you throw steam, I've heard, I need to look this up and confirm this, but I've heard the volume of water expands 1,000 times. Whatever the number is, it's a huge number. And then that pushes a lot of air. So if you have a large space for that to exit, it can push it out. And then after it's pushed it out, now it can receive air back in. So it's good to have a lot of opening down there.
Yeah, and like with my sauna build, the heater and the door are pretty much on the one end of a 9 foot run. So I've got a 6 by 9 box, and the heater and door are pretty much off to the one end. And so when I do throw a lot of steam, I can tell that when it's coming up over my head and hitting that back wall and then starting to kind of give it that convection motion. I can tell when it's steam, and then I can tell when that steam starts to dissipate, when that fresh air starts to replace that steam. I can definitely feel that fresh air hit me, which is great. What you want. You want to be able to, you want to move air around in your sauna. You do not want it to be stagnant. You want that heat to rise and fall and rise and fall again, and just kind of generate just that nice little convection to move that air around you.
We've had a lot of questions about people complaining that when they throw water on the rocks, what happens is that because of that air pressure, their doors open, the sauna door opens up. And now if you have that sizable gap, it won't, right? So
Right.
that's one option to get rid of that issue. We should do more research on the fact that like how big is a gap is too much.
Yeah, I can speak to my sauna and how I built my door. I've got probably an inch gap on the floor, but then I also have a small gap on the top of the door. But when I trimmed out the door from the inside, there's a bit, basically the air would have to kind of do one of these to get up and around it, from how I trimmed out the top of the door. So there's a bit of a anything that if anything is building up in the ceiling of my sauna, any gas that is not being released, once it gets down to that, underneath that lip of that um, trim board, then it would be able to be released out and exchanged. But again, my door is not hermetically sealed by any means. There's a little bit of a gap on the side as well. But again, with that wood stove, I'm pumping out 200 degrees, in the blink of an eye if I add one more piece of wood. So I'm starting to get it down where I've got 180, 190 in my sights, but all it takes is one little extra piece of wood and I'm up into the 200 range real quick.
Well, we'll have to do a whole episode dedicated to ventilation. I think the basic concepts are pretty easy to understand, but then you get into that nuance and testing things out, and then that's where it gets really kind of complicated. And then also an episode on wood burning versus electric. I know one of our listeners has requested that, so that would be a good dedicated episode also.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do too, especially if you're in the home build stage or you're in DIY stage and you're building your own sauna, or maybe you're designing a sauna with a company, and you are worried or concerned about ventilation. It's just like putting a hole in your drywall at home. Yeah, the pucker factor's up, but again, nothing is, forever. You can fix a lot of things and you can try a lot of things. So just remember, if it doesn't work, try something else. Don't just sit there and say, well, this is how it is now. You can fix some stuff, and don't be afraid to put in something that maybe you have to close off. Maybe you do put in an extra vent, but that has a slider, and you're like, oh, I don't like when that one's open anymore. Or, hey, I like when it's wide open. That's that guest test and revise. So if you do end up putting vents, in your homemade sauna, maybe you make them so that they're not just holes, and that they can be regulated with either a slider or a twist dial or whatever it is to open and close those things at your leisure, because there's probably going to be times when it's either hot outside, hot inside, cold outside, where you may want to change how your sauna breathes.
By the way, I'm changing the topic here for a second. There was one extra thing at that sauna I was using in Helsinki, which was very nice. Uh, we all know that they put these LED lights now inside the saunas. When you buy a new sauna, there's like this long like LED little underneath the benches and whatnot. Now, I hope that this is not a trade secret, but there are companies like back home in Finland home is that there's a bright LED light right on top of the heater, the stove, right on top of the rocks in the ceiling. And what it creates now when it's dark is when you throw load, it looks like the load is climbing up the light. it's super fancy, and I have not seen that in the US or in North America yet.
Well, and I suppose you could do, even a green or purple laser or something like that that's being emitted down from the ceiling or even from a sidewall. When you throw anything that's going to particulate in the air, that's going to look really cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's something else.
We need a video of that.
Oh yeah, I have to, company expense. I'm gonna go back to do some sauna.
Yeah, yeah. First it was rock tower heaters, now it's lasers and light shows.
Yes, yes, yes.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Is there anything else that we want to add to the washing or the Helsinki sauna?
I love the free form episode here, guys. I'm gonna keep this in. I mean, let's maybe this is something that lets our listeners in on a little bit of our process and a little bit of our background. We are an open book here at the Upper Bench. We love showing you guys what we do and how we do it, and we want to share it with you. So if you've got comments, concerns, anything, questions, if you want to even be a guest on the show, or you'd want to just say, hey, would you guys talk about this or that, or hey, maybe would you show this picture of my cat? I don't care. Get in touch with us. The worst that we can say is no, people. So get a hold of us. We'd love to be with you guys. Again, take a look at our website. Again, we're going to Toronto this fall in November. If you can meet us, come greet us. We would love to have you. And give us your suggestions for where we should sauna and where we should eat when we're in Toronto.
Thanks, guys. Take care.